This event is proudly organized by the Indonesian National Association of Social Workers in collaboration with national universities and institutions. My name is Sandy, and I'm honored to serve as the host for today's program. Before we begin, please allow me to extend a warm welcome to our esteemed guests and participants. First and foremost, we are deeply honored to welcome our distinguished speaker, Dr. Peter Sito, PhD, Professor of Social Work at the Grace Abbott School of Social Work, University of Nebraska at Omaha. We are also pleased to welcome our moderator for today's session, Rajendra Vastu Astaersos, Master Student in Applied Social Work, Bandung Polytechnic of Social Welfare. A special welcome as well to representative from the Ministry of Social Affairs of Indonesia and Indonesian National Council of Social Welfare. Warm welcome to Dr. Puji Pujiono, MSW, the President of the Indonesian Independent Association of Professional Social Workers, or IPSPI, along with specialized social worker associations and provincial chapters. Special thanks to our collaborating university, Muhammadiyah Jakarta University, Syarif Hidayatullah State Islamic University Jakarta, Binawan University, University of Indonesia, Pajajaran University, Polytechnic of Social Welfare of Bandung, and Pasundan University, and to the Social Welfare and Social Work Students Association Forum for your strong support and partnership in this event. To all social workers, lecturers, students, humanitarian workers joining us via Zoom and YouTube, your presence is truly an honor and we sincerely appreciate your support. Ladies and gentlemen, the Social Work International Lecture Series is a regular forum aimed for encouraging global knowledge exchange and strengthening the practice of social work through learning and collaboration. It serves as a bridge between global insights and local actions, empowering social workers to grow and lead in their fields. Today's session is held under the theme Visualizing Social Welfare, using photography as a medium to capture social change. This lecture aims to introduce photography as an innovative medium in social work, enabling the capture, interpretation, and communication of social change. It advances ethical, effective, and evidence-based practice, thereby enhancing professional credibility and social impact. Now, to officially open the session, we are honored to invite Dr. Puji Pujiono, President of the Indonesian Independent Association of Professional Social Workers, or IPSPI, to deliver the opening remarks. To Dr. Puji, the screen is yours.
Wabarakatuh. Colleagues, social workers in Indonesia, elsewhere, greetings to you all. I'm Puji Pujiono, the President of the Indonesian Independent Association of Professional Social Workers. Welcome you to the Social Work International Lecture Series, the installment number 14. I would like to start by congratulating the team for running the Social Work International Lecture Series without break for the last 14 months. And I wish you to continue doing this onward. Secondly, I would like to welcome our distinguished speaker today, Dr. Peter Sito, a dear friend whom I got the privilege to get acquainted in an event in Jakarta not long ago. And many other of my colleagues, like myself, are impressed by the breakthrough, the innovativeness of his approach in using a visual to help social workers articulate, define, and strategize their intervention.
Iya, soalnya kan emosi-emosi klien itu ke kita semua, jadi harus kita tumpahkan juga itu.
Third, I would like to thank our collaborating agencies and organizations, the Ministry of Social Affairs, the Indonesian Council for Social Welfare, and the premier universities, University of Indonesia, University of Pajajaran, Binawan University, the Jakarta Islamic State University, and others that I cannot mention one by one. We thank you for doing this journey with us. And finally, to my fellow social workers here in Indonesia and elsewhere, I hope that you continue enjoying the Social Work International Lecture Series as much as we producing it. It is my hope that increasingly you will be stepping forward and offer yourself to be part of this conversation. Share your experience, your innovations, your new way of doing social work practices from different parts of the world. Otherwise, we'll continue providing this. And we hope that the network that established and developed from this exercise will continue to flourish, enrich our practices, and encourage us to innovate even more. So with that, let me close by thanking Ms. Tisha Marianti, the program manager of the Social Work International Lecture Series, and her team for doing a sterling job navigating and steering this program for the last 14 months. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you take a full advantage of the presentation today, in which a new method is being introduced, a new technique is here to reinvigorate our practice. So I hope you enjoy it. I encourage you to engage in the debate and the question and answer. And already, Peter and I were talking about doing more than just lecture. We are thinking about following it up with more dedicated time to have projects among our students and others. Once again, I hope you enjoyed the deliberations, the exchange, and the learning. Thank you very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Dr. Puji, for your thoughtful words. Your message lays a strong foundation for today's discussion. Ladies and gentlemen, with that, we now officially open this session. Before we continue, we would like to invite everyone to kindly turn on your camera so we can take a photo group together. Untuk Bapak Ibu peserta, dimohon untuk membuka kamera karena kita akan melakukan foto bersama. Okay, everyone ready? I will count. Operator ready? Mbak Disha? Okay. Okay, everyone show your best smile in 3, 2, 1, cheers. Okay, one more. 3, 2, 1, cheers. Okay, thank you so much everyone for joining the photo session and for your wonderful smiles. Before we continue, here are a few quick housekeeping reminders to help ensure a smooth session. First, please turn on your Zoom camera. Please keep your microphones muted unless you are invited to speak. The session is conducted in English. If you need support in understanding, feel free to turn on the closed captions on Zoom. We encourage your participation. To join the session, please use the raise hand feature or type your questions in the chat box. We will prioritize live question during the Q&A, followed by selected written ones. You are welcome to ask questions in either English or Bahasa Indonesia. The moderator will assist with translation when needed. Please note that this session is being recorded for documentation purpose. Ladies and gentlemen, we now move to the main part of our program. It is my pleasure to invite our moderator, Mr. Rajendra Panggita Vastu, STRSOS. Mr. Rajendra Panggita Vastu, STRSOS, is a social work specializing in disaster management with hands-on experience in community-based disaster risk reduction at village to district levels. He has led social innovation and preparedness programs with government, foundations, and humanitarian organizations, and is a certified psychological first aid trainer. currently pursuing a master's in applied social work at Bandung Polytechnic of Social Welfare. Rajendra specialized in disaster management, humanitarian response, and community resilience with active collaboration in Indonesia and international. We are very honored to have him with us today. So without further ado, I hand over to screen to Mr. Rajendra.
Thank you very much for the kind of introduction. Good evening, everyone, distinguished speakers, honored guests, colleagues, and participants joining us through Zoom and YouTube. It is truly a pleasure and honor for me to serve as the moderator for today's International Lecturer Series. I look forward to accompanying you through this session as we explore our very special theme together. Today's lecture carries the important theme, visualizing social welfare using photography as a medium to capture social change. Photography is not only an art, it's also a powerful lens through which we can capture untold stories, inspire reflection, and drive social change for social workers. It can be a tool to amplify voices, enhance practice, and strengthen advocacy. Before we begin, let me share a few guidelines for all participants. First, please keep your microphone muted during the lecture. Second, don't forget to prepare your book and pencil to write the material. And third, we will have a dedicated Q&A session after the presentation, so stay engaged. Now, allow me to briefly introduce our speaker. Dr. Peter Sito is a professor of social work at the Grace Abbott School of Social Work, University of Nebraska at Omaha. He worked for 12 years in various inpatient and community mental health settings in Michigan and Philadelphia before entering academia. His research focused on visualizing social welfare with projects conducted in China, Singapore, and Omaha. Since 1996, he has taken nearly 120 social work students on travel course to China. In 2022, he served as a senior Fulbright scholar at the National University of Singapore, teaching mental health care and conducting an innovative visual study on social isolated youth. Currently, he chairs the advisory board for the TSWE Catherine A. Kendall Institute for International Social Work Education. And he is also the editor-in-chief of Social Work and Christianity. With that, it's my honor to welcome Dr. Peter Sito. Hello, good evening, Dr. Sito. How are you?
Fine. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and
Okay.
clear, Professor. So we are delighted to have you here with us. Thank you for joining this international lecture series, Professor, and for being willing to share your knowledge and experience. Without further delay, we now invite Dr. Sito to deliver his lecture around 45 minutes. And please, time and screen are your Dr. Sito. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me see if this works. Can you see that?
Yes, Dr. Sito. Clear.
Okay. Well, thank you again for having me here. I live in Omaha, Nebraska, and if you don't know where that is, it's in the very center of the United States. And the time here is 8:45 a.m. So it's nice to wake up to give this presentation. And then you all in Indonesia, I hope I don't put you to sleep because it's the end of your day. But I am excited to be here to share my research and some of my ideas. And it's just not sharing itself, but it's that we could all think about how we can improve how we do social work and how we can improve how we serve our clients better. So I started teaching social welfare policy, and I realized that my students had it was a challenge for them to articulate and to provide evidence of whatever social problem they were looking at. Most of them would just say the social problem is this: teen pregnancy, divorce, substance abuse. And then I would push that a little further and say, well, how do you know all of those problems that you claim are true? Then it was a little more difficult for them to substantiate, to demonstrate that is true. So what I realized that the problem really is that a lot of these assumptions about social problems that they're hidden. And the reason why they're hidden, we'll get into. But how can we as social workers see more clearly? How can we see the problems more vividly? And so that's the major question that I'm going to be answering. And along with that is that if we do outreach or research to explore and better see problems, how do we also honor the human dignity and persons that we're working with, particularly if they're isolated? And so this is the project, and it was inspired by an ancient text that I came across many, many years ago. And the text says that you will be ever seeing, but never perceiving. And I just found this fascinating that, well, if we see with our eyes, how come we don't really see with our mind? And so I realized that this is a not only an ancient observation, but it's still with us today. And it was somewhat related to my students that in their minds they could say this is the problem, but they really couldn't visualize it or demonstrate it with real evidence. And so it led me to think more about this dilemma. And one way to interpret this is by way of religion and theology. And so that's not my purpose here, but that's one way to approach this perception problem. Another way to understand and interpret this dilemma is understanding how our minds work. So in psychology, we call that cognitive perceptual. And I want to unfold this cognitive perceptual dilemma or gap and apply it to social welfare. You don't have to raise your hands, but all of you probably have a smartphone. Maybe some of you have a camera, but what the smartphone has done is to make everybody a photographer because we like to take pictures of basically everything, right? And share it over social media. And so I want you to think about things I'm going to say, but also think about you all can do the same thing with your smartphone or with a camera. And I have two case studies to show how that works. But we need to recognize that the importance of seeing. Now, I wear glasses, and so if I take off my glasses, I am visually challenged. I won't see as clearly. And so I wear corrective lenses, and I see some of you wear glasses too. The corrective lenses, the glasses, helps us see better, but it's only optical. It will provide some type of clarity. But there's another kind of seeing, and I'm calling that comprehension, and that is to see in our minds. So we have the eye, but we also have in our minds the capacity to see clearly. And it's actually the two have to work together because you could be seeing things and not necessarily perceiving them or understanding them or having true comprehension. And if we all actually saw so clearly, guess what? We'd all solve the problems right away. All the problems in the world would be gone if we all saw it as clear as they really are. And so, why is that way? Well, one of the things that we want to recognize is that the visual precedes the verbal. And one of the things, if you are a social worker and you go to study social work at the graduate level or deeper, that the emphasis on articulation with our mouths. And we write articles, we read books, and it's the verbal that we kind of have a bias towards. But actually, more important is the visual. So an example is infants developmentally, that the visual is more important than the verbal, because when an early infant, they can't speak yet, but they can see. And that's why if you have a child, a baby, one of the games you play is like hide and seek, because they think that's fun. Like they see you, and then you cover your eyes and they don't see you, and then that's how they communicate. And over time, maybe the verbal again has replaced the visual, but the visual is very, very important, which is why in today's world, the iPhone and iPads, they become and TV and movies, they become so powerful because we like to see. And many of us are visual learners, although in school and practice, the verbal gets more attention. But this is very, very important because as you see here, that well, actually, the question is, what do you see here? I'll give you a chance to look. Some of you will see a person looking straight at you. Some of you will seeing a person looking to the left. And actually, there's one person looking in two different ways. And so the mind could be fooled through illusion. And what that really amounts to is that sometimes the perception is the reality. And this is common in social work, right? You have a case, you have a client, and they see things differently the way you do or other people. And so, we say that, well, even though it's not true, particularly in mental health, someone might be perceiving the world in a certain way. It's not accurate, but their perception is real. Very powerful how the mind and the eye are connected. And then I want to connect this to just seeing in general, because in social work research in particular, we want evidence. As I said with my social work students, is that, well, how do you know your claim about a social problem is accurate? And so people that are watching this, how many of you have been to the moon? But we see pictures of the moon, and I guess the question is, well, how do you know that that picture is true? Is the photograph trustworthy? Some people say, in terms of doubt, that that picture was taken in a studio in Hollywood, like it's fake. And so trustworthiness is very important. I believe that the visuals can have high reliability and validity, which is important for this type of work. Now, there's a tension, and I won't take too much time here because I want to show you, demonstrate through my own work um, um, possibilities. But there is a tension between art and science. And science would claim that, well, we're value neutral. Therefore, we're more objective. Then they challenge art or qualitative methods or photography in this case, that's very subjective. Well, we know that that's not always the case, that actually a better way to understand art and science is on a continuum. Art is valid for social work practice as well as science. So we want to see how we could use both of them. Some of you might know of that tension between qualitative and quantitative methods. And then a compromise or an insight is that you could use both, called mixed methods. So in other words, we can see to be objective and to be subjective on a continuum. And actually, social work honors the subjectivity because when we're working with people, you want to honor their humanity, their personhood, their integrity. And a person that did work on this, if you want to look at the philosophy underpinning these ideas, Karl Popper did work where he says that science is also influenced and shaped by values. So even though science claims objectivity, it too has some bias. Um, so this leads us to this sentence or question is that I'm claiming that social work as a expanded definition, is an observational science of practice. And you know from your own work that you have to observe your clients. You look at their behaviors, their nonverbals. You listen carefully. You're making observations. And so you need to do that before you make an intervention or have an appropriate response. So I'm just expanding that observational piece to the visual world. And then, of course, photography as a medium to do social work practice. So I have a couple lecture objectives. So we're going to explore the use of photography, and this was actually in the documents, so I don't have the whole text here, but the use of photography for social work practice. And I'm just going to, this is kind of like a beginning. Um, I would love to talk to you more in the future to expand on this and around projects. That's the best way to learn that. And to also to demonstrate how photography can bridge cultural contexts. So I have a project that I did in Singapore, and I have a project that I did in China. It would be wonderful for you to visit America and do a project here with your cameras. And I could be happy to host that, facilitate that. And then, of course, we want to have the best, broadest sense of skills and tools for social work. So we always want to be innovating because the world is changing. So maybe the latest technology is AI, just and taking over the world and taking over social work. Okay, so here we are with the focus of my talk, and that's visualizing social welfare using photography as a medium to capture social change. If you look carefully, the background is, I took that picture at the conference in Jakarta. That was a wonderful dance performance. So my first case study is one that I did in Singapore, and the purpose was to understand what's called the hidden youth. And it was a 2-month project, and I did it in collaboration with a local agency. But the background is that I'll just go to the next one. It was about this hidden youth. So it's a little obvious what hidden youth are. They are young people, 15 to 18 in my study, that are hidden. And you go, well, how is that so? Well, they noticed, the social workers there, that some of these youth, beginning about 10 years ago, were not attending school, right? So in the classroom, they were absent, but in many ways, they were hidden. Where were they hidden? Well, this is where it becomes very serious, that these youth stayed out of sight from society. Well, we all do that a little bit, right? But these youth would stay self-secluded in their rooms, their parents' rooms, for years. The minimum was half a year, but some of them would be in their rooms for years. Therefore, they were hidden from other family members, hidden from their friends in school, and that's not normal to be in your room for years. So what I thought was like, well, when I heard about it, well, how can I see these people that are hidden? How do we document them? And of course, photography can do that. That's one of the whole purpose of photography. So I want to share with you my findings by what, and I call it photographs, but they're actually visual evidence. And it's what I saw when I connected with these individuals. And so it was very observational to show other people what I saw. Otherwise, I could talk about it a lot. I can give you a lot of details verbally, but when I talk about it, you're probably going, well, what do they look like? Well, that's where the power of photography comes in. All right, so when I was in Singapore, I had this project I had to do a lot of get a lot of approvals um, in order for them uh, to respect their rights and to make sure that I wasn't that I was following ethical guidelines. So the agency that I mentioned, they had already done outreach with these individuals. So the agreement was I would accompany the social workers and they would sign the release forms and then we would proceed. If they didn't uh, agree, then I wouldn't take pictures. But if they did, then I could establish a relationship and follow through. So the first evening we went out, and this particular young man, he was nocturnal, meaning he liked to sleep at night. Well, I like to, he didn't like to sleep at night. He stayed up all night. I am not nocturnal, meaning I like to sleep at night. So we had a little challenge that when could I see him when he's awake and I'm awake. So the first night it was around 10 or 11. We went to his place. He had just woken up, and I was really excited to start the project. But because of the confidentiality, the social workers met with him first, and it took about an hour for them to explain everything. And I was sitting off about 25, 50 meters away, and I could see them, but I couldn't hear them, and I just had to wait patiently. And then finally, they said, "Come on over." Now, this is a little bit more complex, but when you do photography of this nature, it's just not going in and taking pictures um, too soon. And so you have to have a gentle approach. You have to be full of humility, and you have to have empathy to establish a relationship with this person that by nature wants to be hidden. That's maybe a little paranoid about people. So I walked over there and I had my cameras with me. And so I was thinking, oh, I was so excited. This is happening, but what kind of approach should I take? And so I was there and I introduced myself and I said, maybe I will take a photograph of him, but not too intrusive, to be as polite as I could. So I said to him, is it okay if I take a picture of your hand? Which is kind of innocent, right? And non-offensive and non-threatening, given like he wants to be hidden. But in one sense, he at least agreed to participate in the project. So I took a picture of his hand, and I had a digital camera, so I showed it to him, and oh, it was okay. And he goes, "Oh, that's a nice picture," but it's just his hand. I didn't travel up to the other side of the world, and then the only picture I got was of his hand. That would that would be that would be very, very little evidence. But then I was still a little shy. And then the next thing I said, well, can I take a picture of your ear? And I thought, again, it's not his face, but it's close. And so I took a picture of his ear. And then, he was getting comfortable with me doing that, which is a good thing. Well, it turned out that this particular client, uh, we never really went further than this because he was nocturnal. And I spent weeks trying to schedule an appointment, and it never worked out. He either didn't wake up in time or was too late. So I have these two pictures of this one hidden youth. The next hidden youth I connected with worked out really well in terms of the project design, where same thing, we signed the documents, we went to his house, and then I asked him when I was in his apartment with his mother and the father was there. I said, "Well, what do you do when you were hidden youth?" He says, "Well, I would game like hours on end." And I go, "Oh, this is like a whole world," because I know gaming people do it, but not all day long. So could you show me what that looks like? So he put his headphones on, and so he's gaming. But he trusted me to do this, and then I took from another angle of him gaming. And the interesting thing about the work is that they have people that are fully secluded and they don't even like the social workers to try to befriend them. And then like the nocturnal one, half coming out, a little coming out. This individual, this young man, he was what they call emerging or being rehabilitated. And so he told me that he gamed a lot, but he doesn't really like it anymore. But I also found out that there's a whole world of gaming, as many of you know. It's quite serious in the sense that some of them are really sophisticated and they have tournaments. But if you're spending too much time on that, I don't think it's healthy. And of course, it wasn't healthy for him. So then, a lot of it is present. I spent 20 to 30 hours with this individual over time. And then I felt was more comfortable with me. So I said, could you tell me what it's like for you every day? And he goes, well, I wake up and have some breakfast. And I said, well, could you show me how you wake up? And so he invited me into the bedroom. I went, oh, wow, this is kind of like a breakthrough because that's a very private space. And their bedroom was interesting because they live in public housing. So there's basically one bedroom for his mother and father and two sisters. And actually, the older sister was also a hidden youth. So he let me come into his sacred space, private space, and I took a picture of I was basically I laid down in his bed. He slept on the floor, and I took a picture of what he sees when he wakes up in the morning. And I thought this is one of my favorite pictures because it's so every day. It's very private, and I was the photographer versus him, but this is really a breakthrough. And then I pushed my relationship with him, and I said, well, why don't you lay down like you're sleeping, and I'll go behind you, actually where the mother sleeps. And so I took a picture of him sleeping. Now these are staged, but they're still authentic in the sense that he let me into his private space. So a lot of times we were just like sitting around talking. And so it was a relationship building. And Singapore is like Jakarta. It's hot and humid. And so we were in his kitchen, and all of a sudden it just started raining really hard, and they hang their laundry out to dry outside, and he jumped up from us talking, and he just quickly pulled in all the laundry and to save it from getting really wet. And I took pictures of that, but I also realized that he's moving along. He's coming out of his hidden youth shell. He was being responsible, and he was less depressed, that he could move around. And then, of course, I was always trying to get as much photography of him without, annoying him. And so this is a picture of him. It's a little silhouetted, but that's okay. But you could see that because I'm pretty close to him. I'm maybe like 5 feet away, and he's smiling. And I knew that we had a really good relationship. So moving along, towards the end of our time together, I said, would you mind if we went out to eat and you could show me your neighborhood? And so he did. So this is a major breakthrough. We went out to a nearby mall, and he knew the mall very well. And we had lunch together, and he showed me around. He was also interested in these, and I forget the name, these toys, and they're real things, and they're about that big, and you have pictures of them, and you can also collect them. And so you could see that we had this relationship now, a bond, in one sense through the photography, but also I used the photography to show an audience like you what the hidden youth look like. And I'm going to end on this project that I did in Singapore with a picture of him and his mother. And I feel honored that they let me into their lives. I helped him, along with others, recover from the hidden youth phenomena. And you can see that it's a close up, and I have a color version, and they have a nice bond. But you can see that they're very relaxed, and they allowed me into their space. So if you have questions, hold on because I'm gonna do my second demonstration. I think I'm on time. I've got about 20 minutes left, 15 minutes left. So this was a visual study that I did in Guangzhou, which is a major city in southern China. And this research was a little older. I did this in, in 2005 as a research project. And the floating population in China is related to developments at a macro level in China with economic reforms. And so this was in the early 2000, late 1990s, that they were trying to create a market economy. And so historically, most of the people lived in the countryside, but they needed workers from the countryside to fill the factories. And of course, kind of like now we know that that whole project worked because China's become the second largest economy in the world. But at the early stages, the movement of the people from the countryside to the cities created a lot of like new behaviors. So I photographed that, and they were called the floating population because up to the peak of it was 250 million people floating into the cities, and a lot of them didn't have the right permit. And so, but there were so many that the government really couldn't manage that. And so when I was visiting China, I noticed that there was an increase of street activity of all kinds. And so I created this project to photograph that. And so, I could talk about the hidden youth, I could talk about the floating population, but as I'm talking, you go, well, what do they look like? And you might form images of your own mind, but I have the visual evidence to show you what they look like. So I'm going to show you that, and we can go into Q&A. So this is a woman that I saw on the streets. Now, most cities have their own local dialect. So in Guangzhou, the major dialect is Cantonese. And so if they're not speaking Cantonese, it means that they're an outsider, and most likely they're floating in. So here's a woman, and you can see that in order to survive economically, they do whatever they can. And so she's selling different animal parts for herbal medicines or whatever. And then if she has her infant here, um, there are there's the low end of the floating population, and then there's like the high end. These people are on the high end, and the story with this is that I was walking because basically that was my project, is to walk around the city and photograph the floating population. And so I had to develop a discernment who was local and who was a floater. And then I heard this music, and it was actually American music. It was genre was big band, and it was like boom, boom, boom. So I got to this big park, and these people were doing ballroom dancing, but they were floaters because they weren't speaking the local language. And I saw that the floating population is like that woman, but also it's individuals like this that on their day off, they would just go to the parks and dance and relax and have a good time. So you could see that there's a variety of behaviors that the floating population comprised of. But I also saw people that were literally in the street begging. A lot of the floating population, they would leave their villages to go to the city to have a better life, to earn higher wages, and then often to send some of that money back to their family in the villages. Some of them ended up in the street like this guy. And, I always heard of like someone begs in the street. I really never saw someone actually in the street begging, but there it is. And then there are other people that were handicapped or disabled or crippled. And they also and I saw many, many of this in the streets. There's a folklore or urban folklore that sometimes when these guys were younger, the family would draw lots, and then they would intentionally cut off their limbs so that they would become the beggar of the family. And this is not just unique to China. This is worldwide. We have this in the States, but at the height of the floating population, sometimes I would see these um, every 20 feet. I can't translate it into meters, but there was a lot of these, and you can see that it's not only the adult, but there were young people. This is actually a large commercial street, and so you have this child that couldn't walk, and he kind of pushed himself along, and you see these middle class shoppers just passing by. The thing was, they're not heartless. There was just so many that it was difficult to deal with. Another part of the floating population, and some of you might be able to read Chinese. I don't read Chinese, but I saw these people telling their stories on the sidewalk, and I just found it fascinating that they would say why they're there and to ask people for help. Um, Other common theme was they came to the city with their hopes and dreams, and then life was rough. And so, what do they do? And so that storytelling was a little series that I took. This happened to be a student, and they're all asking for support money to go back to their village. And then some were health related. This person says that he has a pulmonary fibrosis, and so that's a serious situation. So you can see that the floating population were people that were kind of well-to-do, working in the factories, clean, and others were disabled. And then you have older people, younger people. And I ended up taking hundreds of pictures of this. I can't show you them all, but that's my second project of the floating population. And of course, we want to see not only like, okay, that's the pictures and you react the way you do, but how can photography, the picture taking, and the subject matter, and the conditions that other people are living, what does it have for social work practice? So I have a few ideas here. One is that it's important in social work to have the right relationship or to build rapport, and that we have to, when you're dealing with other people, to have a high respect for their individuality, that they're fellow human beings. They're not just subjects or less than a human being, that we think holistically. And I try to have that come out in my photography, to photograph them in a respectful way. And I call this empathic engagement. So we talk about empathy. We also talk about engagement. So I combined it. Is that as we are offering empathy, our attitude is empathetic, that how that can use to develop the relationship, to engage them. And it should be mutual. Like the nocturnal hidden youth, he ended up, not really wanting to take his picture, so I didn't. You can't force something. And basically, it's not only having mutual trust, but earning mutual trust. So I tell my students that social workers should be experts in human relationships. How can we use our interpersonal skills in a way to engage clients, but also to help them in whatever situation there is? Then, of course, the implications that how visual evidence could help our understanding of our clients. And hopefully you'll see that it's reliable. These pictures that I took were not photoshopped. They're genuine. There is some design elements and composing, but it is the way they are. The Hidden Youth was more controlled because I was with the clients, but the floating population is less so. But high reliability. That when you see that, you can see that, oh, it's striking. Particularly, I think some of the persons on the street, sometimes that could be hard hitting, and you go, oh, that's a terrible condition to be in. And of course, it's like, well, yes, that's why we want to see them so that we could help them. If you don't see these situations, that you'll never know, and you'll never intervene. And so I believe visual evidence has high reliability, validity, and therefore credibility. And of course, then this is my coming to the end. We want to think about future possibilities. And so for some of my work, Maybe a larger representative sample would lend to its credibility. So the Hidden Youth was just in Singapore. I was in Albania a couple weeks ago, and I said, I bet you have Hidden Youth here. Maybe Hidden Youth also is in Indonesia. And you go, well, we don't know because they're hidden. But if we could find out, then we could help out, we can intervene. Um, Future possibilities also is to show the diversity of our work cross-culturally, that not to be too closed-minded in how we think about social problems. So yes, you want to think about social conditions and economic social development in Indonesia, but also how what the world can learn from Indonesia's intervention to other places and vice versa. So diversity is a good thing for social work because it brings us together. And as I mentioned before, cross-national comparison would be a way to think about the future. And so I'd like to thank you all for spending time together and for coming to see. And I could take questions if there are any. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much for your presentation, Dr. Sito. Very insightful and inspiring. Please give applause, guys, to Dr. Sito for the presentation. So, Dr. Sito, honestly, many students find in Indonesia difficult to describe the social problem that they observe, and I'm one of them. I'm not a photographer, I just a social worker, and so this is a new tool for me and maybe majority of the participant, and I think this is going to be a game changer. That can be an important tool in social work to see hidden realities, build empathy, uphold dignity, and promote social change across culture. Because usually we describe things only through writing and just report, and that's it. So now we are entering the 50-minute question and answer session. Here are a few simple for the participant to keep our discussion organized. First, there will be a 2 round of question, uh, with each round question of 3 question. Second, the first round will be begin with direct verbal question, and participants are kindly asked to use the raise hand feature. If there is still enough time, we will open another round for 3 more questions. And third, if participants are unable to ask their question verbally, you can submit it through the chat box. And each question will be answered directly by Dr. Sito before moving on the next question. So to begin for the participant question directly first round. So in my screen, there is Mr. Puji and Mr. Muhammad Satria Suryaji for direct question for Dr. Sito. So maybe in my screen, Mr. Puji, who first used the raise hand feature. So Mr. Puji, please, time and screen is yours to share your question. Thank you.
Right, Rajan, first of all, thank you for your moderation. And Peter, congratulations and thanks for the lecture. I'll go straight to the question. I raised it before, but I would like to discuss it here. I think in addition to what you said earlier, Peter, that it helps reliability, empathy, and cross-culture, I see the huge potential of photography to have the narrative of social workers about their work, about people they're working with. And precisely because of its non-verbal nature, that, just like the saying, picture speak 1,000 words, I suppose. So I see that potential, and I would like you to comment on that. I guess the follow-up question to that is, how could we harden, how could we enhance this narrative using pictures for the purpose of social work? And that's it. Thank you, Rajan, and Peter, thank you.
That's a great question. In one sense, I created a story of floating population and the hidden youth. So I call that a visual narrative. And so it involves not only taking the pictures, but telling a story with the pictures. So you could keep that in mind as you're collecting the visual evidence, doing the photography. But then when you edit or have a presentation, it becomes a story, a visual narrative. Another way to deepen that understanding is the word photography itself. If you split it in half, it's photo, grapheme. Grapheme means writing, right? Like graphics. And photo means light. So photography really means writing with light. And so how can we take that potential capacity to tell stories with pictures? Well, you could do that one as a photographer, which is what I did. There is another method, very powerful, called photo voice. And you give the camera, it's a form of empowerment. You give the camera to the client or the subject, and you have them take pictures of their everyday experience. And so that becomes a form of dialogue, and you could look at the pictures together and say, "Oh, why did you take that? What does that mean for you?" And it's a way for us to understand their lives, because some clients are not verbal, and so you're working with them, and they don't give you too much detail, but their photography can bridge that gap. So photo voice is one method, as well as like what I did is that, well, maybe none of you knew about the hidden youth or the floating population, but I created this visual narrative, and so now you could see that story. And there's kind of like so many ways in terms of applications that this could be useful. You could use this a few pictures. You could do this as a bigger project. You could do this with a community. There are different ways that the photography helps us see more clearly, as I opened up. So lots of possibilities, and of course, be happy to do this in the future to go deeper and to there is a skill piece where not everyone feels confident with picture taking, but we can learn that, how to compose, how to understand lighting, how to do selfies better, and all that. Those are easy skills that could be learned pretty quickly.
Okay. Is that enough, Dr. Sito, for your answer?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Perhaps maybe is there any response from Dr. Puji for the question, for the
No, no,
answer? Sorry.
I think it's good explanation. It does show a lot more potential. I think I agree with Peter that we can take further steps as we move along to increase the credibility of picture as methodology, as we said earlier, and also to give it a shot from time to time. So we were talking about giving a try in Indonesia with some students, with some researchers, and see how it goes. So that's some reason for me. Again, thank you very much. Back to you.
Thank you, Dr. Puji, for your question. So let's move on to the next questioner. This is in my screen. There is Mr. Muhammad Satria Surya Aji, who already raised hand. Please, Mr. Muhammad Satria Surya Aji, give your question, and don't forget to introduce yourself first. Thank you.
Okay, is my voice clear, Mr. Rajan? Okay. Okay,
Loud
I
and
hope.
clear, Mr. Satria.
Okay, I hope my voice is clear. Hello, Dr. Peter. My
Hello.
name is Satria Aji. Wait, my video is not. Okay. My name is Satria Aji. I'm a certified social worker, and sometimes I'm being a photographer who occasionally practice street photography. And I have few uh, few questions, both technical and non-technical. The first question is, how can we capture moments or social realities within society, such as poverty in densely populated neighborhoods where children are often decent, without violating photographic ethics, privacy, or appearing to exploit children? Because if these social realities are not brought to light, there is a possibility that they will be ignored and will not receive the attention they deserve from those who should be helping them. And the last question is, how can we change the perspective and working methods of social workers or those in various NGOs so that they understand a photograph is not merely a documentation with a watermark and date, but should be able to tell a story even without words, as you explained earlier, right? And because many of them still tend to document things in a purely mechanical way without considering the storytelling power of visual imagery. Uh, Maybe that's my question. Thank you.
Thank you,
Uh,
Muhammad Satria. Please, Mr. Dr. Peter.
Yeah, let me see if I understand the first question. Is like, how do we be ethical when we photograph children? Is that your question?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay. Um, well, when I first started this and I said I want to do photography, that was actually with the floating population. We have in my university, like an ethics review board, and they were like, "Oh, you can't do that." And so I had to persuade them how photography, if it's done in a very sensitive way, if it's done in a very honoring way, and if it's done in an ethical way, it's just as good as doing a survey. I mean, whether in research, most of it is survey research, right? And you interview clients and you do the statistical analysis, but you still have to get the permission to to do that. But it's the same thing with photography. Is that so? I had to have the right consent forms. I had to get the right permission from my university, as well as with the agency in Singapore. So we went through a very rigorous process, and the clients had to sign the form. That's what I mentioned in the beginning. So if they signed the form, they agreed to participate, but they also agreed that they could drop out at any time. So one of the clients actually did that, and so you respect that. The other was the use of the pictures. They also had the right to say, no, don't use that, and that's okay to use that. So the idea was to be co-participants, co-research, if you will, that it wasn't just me taking the pictures and me using it any way I want to, but with their permission. So I have all this written documentation where they sign the release forms, which allows me to share it with you. And then, when I presented, I also, even though their images and the floating population was a while ago, I still want to narrate it in a respectful way. And so I think, or I hope I did that. So there are ways, as in other areas of research, to be highly ethical, to respect their privacy, and also not to manipulate or to exploit anybody, but for sure children. With the children, the like in the case with the mother had to also co-sign the release form. And so there are ways to do it, and you don't also want to make mistakes. You want to have an ethics review board to support the work and to get the right language, the right articulation, that you're being ethical from beginning to the end, both in the conceptualization of the project as well as the performance and the sharing of the project. I think maybe that's the most important thing, is to honor their personhood by way of practicing in an ethical way. But we do that in other areas of research, and we should do the same thing with photography. So that's how I approach the ethics with children. But it goes along with if you're proposing a project with working with an NGO, and they might have their own suspicion about the validity of photography. And one is to say, well, we're going to do this in an ethical way. And it's to help, it's not to exploit. So you don't like sell pictures and you're not making money off of that. But it's really to provide an intervention. Again, how do we know whatever the project is? How do we know they're there unless you can see them? So you can go to an NGO and go, I have this great idea, and they go, well, who are they and where are they? What do they look like? Well, that's the whole point is to, and it could be the project itself, or it could be an aspect of this larger project is first to visually document what they look like, and then you can do further studies. That's the case with the hidden youth in Singapore. Not too many agencies, NGOs realize that that's a big problem. Well, to show them that they exist by way of the photography, now they know. So there are a lot of cases like that. Again, if we could all see clearly, then we'd be solving a lot of social problems. But one is the visual and as well as the perceptual blocks us from seeing and blocks us from helping out in the right way. So for many ways, this is a new idea. I understand that, but we want to have the new idea grounded in good theory and good research and ethics. And so that's kind of like what I'm trying to do. But those are great questions, though. And I hope I answered them.
All right, thank you, Dr. Sito, for your answer. So maybe Mr. Satria Surya Arji, do you have any responses for the answer?
No, it's enough. Thank you for Dr. Peter for your answer. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, thank you once again, Mr. Muhammad Satria Surya Aji. So I just remind to participant, is there any who want directly ask your question directly to Dr. Sito? Please use your raise hand. Okay. Is there any participant who want to? All right. In my screen, there is Mrs. Ines Dera Ramadhani who want to raise hand. Please, Mrs. Ines, the time and screen is yours to share your question to Dr. Sito, please. Thank you. And don't forget to introduce yourself first.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, Rajendra, for accommodating this meeting, this session. And thank you, Dr. Suto, as well, for your time to make this right now. So rather than question, I think I would like to share my experiences in photographing in humanitarian worker. So right now I am a staff or one of the largest Muslim humanitarian organization, whether of you know it, it is Islamic Relief. You can search it on Google. So yeah, Dr. Soto, please let me share my experiences based on how I work on the field. So yeah, with Islamic Relief, actually, I have met families who lost their homes, children who is still love and play even in the middle of hardship, and the community that show incredible strength. I think I agree with Dr. Soto that every picture we take in the field is not just an image. We also write down their stories because a photo can show a face, but the story gives that face a voice. So when Dr. Soto said sometimes the right holders might not say much, but their expression tells us everything. Like a look, a smile, even silence can speak louder than words. We can say that. And when we write their story, we also make sure it is the truth that it is happened on the field. So the truth that I mean it that the story that respect them, that protects their dignity, and that honors their humanity. So regarding to that question earlier about how do we photographing children in the field. So based on my experience, when we are photographing children in the field, the most important thing is to meet them where they are. Like children are full of energy and honesty, and a good photo comes for letting them be themselves rather than asking them to pose stiffly, approaching them gently with kindness and patience so they feel comfortable around you. Sometimes it helps to spend time talking or even playing a little bit before bringing out your camera or your tools. So I'm saying that instead of forcing moments, like we can watch carefully for natural ones, like a burst of laughter, a curious eyes exploring the world, or maybe we can interact with them to make the moment more precious. And by talking with children, I mean like stay at their level, literally by kneeling or sitting, so the camera see the world as they do. So I think this make the perspective of the photo makes more authentic and intimate. I think that's what I want to share with you guys. So thanks a lot, Rajendra, for the and thanks a lot, Dr. Soto, as well.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Ines. So
Yeah.
please, Dr. Sito, times and screen is yours.
Yeah, Rajendra and Dr. Sito, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I would like to add some context about Inges. Inges is a social worker. He's a, I mean, same like us, he is a professional social worker who work in one of the INGO, the Islamic Relief, and as he already mentioned earlier, that her work is in the photography and then the publication and so on. So I think what she shared earlier is she told me before that her background as social worker help so much in her work to put on empathy, you know, in capturing what happened in the field and how to deliver it in a report, in a publication, and so on. Yeah. So now it's great to have her sharing her experience, and we would like to hear more from Dr. Sito regarding this. Thank you.
Earlier on, when I was younger, I was fascinated by a lot of photojournalism. And these are professional photographers that would take pictures of war, of things happening in the streets, and for the newspapers. And that was my earlier impression of the power of the photographer to see parts of the world that I couldn't see. But I also was impressed with the way they took the picture. And so now we're getting into, let's say, the skills of the photographer. And of course, there's so many photographers, but over time, some are more skilled than others. And the better skilled, meaning not so much how they control the light and the technical parts, but how they able to capture an authentic moment the way it really is. And I think that's what she's referring to. And I strive for that too. Sometimes I get it, sometimes I don't. You have to keep practicing. And some of it's related to social work skills, is that we all have our own relational skills and nonverbal. And so sometimes those social work qualities become part of an advantage to capture the authenticity. So I think that came out maybe more in my hidden youth work, because I was with the individuals over time, and so I took a lot of pictures. I only showed the ones that I thought maybe were more authentic, because I think that's the most important. Is that we want to really. I mean, in one sense, everyone's a photographer. The only difference is that some have cameras and some don't, because we see with our eyes anyway, right? You see something, you experience it. The camera can just document what you're seeing. And so the question is then, how can you capture that scene in an authentic way? But if you're in an emergency room, you're in a hospital, you're doing a home visit, wherever you are, you're seeing things. You're just not photographing them, but you're still, in one sense, photographing them with your mind. But so the kind of like the goal is to be authentic, but social workers should be authentic too, right? We teach our students to be, these are social work skills, these are social work values, these are social work theories, but the best tool for a social worker is themselves, because you want to be authentic as you can. So how do you translate that into the photography? And if you're taking pictures, I'd love to see your pictures, and that would be a nice sharing time and saying, "Oh, you really capture that in an authentic way," because human authenticity is very moving. We're all kind of like touched by that. So I hope that was a good answer for you, response.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Sito. Maybe, Mrs. Inges, is there any response? Okay, maybe Mrs. Inges is not in his Zoom right now, maybe, but thank you, Dr. Sito, for your answer. So Mrs. Inge's question will be the last one in this session. Thank you for your participation in this first session. I can see that the participants are very excited about this topic. So now let's move on to the second session question. We focus on the chat box question, Mr. Sito, Dr. Sito. Please, I will read it. Read it for you. First one, this is from Tria Cahyani. She asked that based on your work in China, Singapore, and the US, what challenge do you see in using photography across different cultural contexts, and how can social worker navigate them?
Well, that's a good question. Most social work starts with local, right? Your city, your country, and the culture. One of the things that I've become more interested in is international social work, or developing a global perspective on social work. And that's how we can learn from each other. I mean, I was in Jakarta for the conference, and it was so powerful, meeting all the new people and getting a little flavor of Indonesian culture. And of course, I came back to the US very excited, and I shared my pictures. And so that's one of the photography can be a tool to really share where we've gone. We do that with our vacation pictures, but we could also do that with our social work pictures. So I see photography, in addition to verbal and verbal narrative, as a way to bridge cultures. Um, I showed you, I don't know if you've been to China, but I did that. And so you didn't have to go to China to see some of the issues going on there. By the way, the floating population, it was a major problem, but the government has basically cleaned it up, and it's no longer on the street. So that was a good thing. But it's a way to bridge cultures and to increase understanding um, for others, but also for the photographer, for myself, is that, and I saw this in another question, is that sometimes I think of a culture this way, and then taking the picture, you realize that, oh, maybe that's offensive, or maybe that's out of context. And so, it's always a learning curve of how I could take the picture, but also what's appropriate, what's not appropriate. And in one sense, making mistakes is okay, because if you don't make mistakes, then how do you learn? And how do you know more about other people, other cultures, whether it's only Indonesia or in the United States, we have a lot of diversity. So I'm always learning about other cultures. We call that cultural humility. And so before cultural humility was a concept, and then doing the international work, I realized that no, it's really about how we perceive, understand knowledge, and just to deepen appreciation of the human condition.
Thank you, Dr. Sito. Yes, of course, as a social worker in Indonesia as well, that Indonesia is a lot of different culture as well. So yeah, I think important to us to know other culture and empathy and ethical to another culture, right? So now let's move on to the next question from the chat box from Mrs. Sarah. She asked that photography can highlight marginalized voices, but it can also reinforce stereotype if not used carefully. How can social worker critical assess whose stories are being told and who control the narrative?
So that's a great question. And I've been working on this. Uh, my background, as we heard earlier, was in mental health. So I worked in psychiatric hospitals, and I realized that I learned that there are many interventions that we know in mental health: medication, group therapy, talk therapy, CBT. So there's a lot of therapeutic insights and knowledge on how to treat many things. But then it dawned on me that a major barrier to mental health care is stigma. How society, family members, even workers, how we have preconceived ideas of what schizophrenia is or depression or whatever. And I realized that stigma really is mental images we have in our own minds, and we project that uh, onto our clients. And so this question about stereotype is very important. So what I've done was and I didn't share that here, but I have photographs of persons with serious mental illness that I took in Omaha, and I took them in a way that you really can't tell that there's any problem. And I showed them the pictures, and people go, they look normal. I go, well, that's the whole point. All of these individuals have very serious mental illness, but the stereotype, the stigma we have in our mind is that, they're crazy and their hair is messed up and they're drooling. So how can we use photography to confront stigma in a way that's done carefully so that we could see people, as I hope, as just individuals with problems. And so a lot of the stereotypes are in the eye of the beholder, but the photography, at least in terms of this, a lecture, an assignment where it challenged in my students our own prejudices, and the pictures were able to reframe how we think about mental illness. So I think that was a way to handle it carefully. I showed you a lot of pictures of in China, people on the street. And frankly, when I've shared this with some people, I'm always sensitive because I've gotten very strong reactions. People got angry at me. People said, "How could you do that?" And so I realized that some of the pictures are very powerful. One of the responses is that, but I didn't put those people there, right? I just documented what I saw. The problem is not so much that I took the picture. The problem is, why are they there to begin with, right? And what can we do as a society to provide better care, interventions, or better places other than the street? But it creates that conversation, and it creates a conversation as like that emotional reaction, like, oh, how could you do that? And that's terrible. But that's what we need to do. Otherwise, we would walk by them or ignore them, and then the problem persists. But I think I've learned to try to, when I narrate, is to be as respectful of the images as possible. But that's a great question.
Thank you, Dr. Sito, for your answer. So yeah, I think that stereotype issue is one of the reason why me especially, and maybe majority in Indonesia dare to engage in photography, because it's so sensitive. And yeah, I think with your answer we can more know how to handle this issue. So now we move on to the next question from chat box. This is from Mrs. Nur Aziza. She asked, Prof. Peter, how can we ensure that a photo depicting a social welfare situation remain truthful, especially in the era of the AI that can manipulate image with extreme realism? And in your opinion, can the use of AI in photography be an opportunity, such as for visual education, or a threat like obscuring social fact?
This is a tough question.
This question about AI.
Yeah, this is a tough question because AI is fairly new, and the power that it has in all of our everyday lives, in medicine, in education. I don't know about in Indonesia, but a lot of my students use AI for assignments, and I'm trying to still formulate how to encourage. There are some positive uses for AI, and there's some very dangerous in terms of plagiarism and not really doing your own work. And of course, I've seen images used with AI that are kind of funny, but they look pretty real. And so this is like a new frontier as far as ethics go. I guess the simple answer is that the photographer who's taking the work is to make a claim. These images were not manipulated by AI. These were not produced by AI. These were not anything related to AI. These are straightforward photography. So I think that that would be a way to avoid going into this whole area of manipulation and illusion. So that would be the responsibility of the social worker and the photographer. But I would say it's the same thing in other areas for social work. If I do a lecture, and there's that temptation, should I have my lecture AI and not tell anybody? Or should students create an outline or submit a paper that's AI generated and not share that? So I think we all have a responsibility to be honest and upfront of the use of the extent of AI in all of our presentations. But it's a very dangerous thing, and we have to maybe see the good things in AI as well as some of the dangers. It could be very damaging. So I like this question, and I'm still thinking about it.
Yeah, me too. Honestly, Dr. Sito, we in Indonesia, we also use AI, but especially for completing assignment for the student and report. And yes, it's our responsibility to not use AI to make a hoax maybe, or make another issue that can bring more problem. So thank you,
Oh,
Dr. Sito,
one
once
other
again.
comment.
Yeah.
So I wanted to let everyone know that I'm real. I'm not AI.
Yeah. I know.
This is
Of course. Yeah. You are real and not AI. So
right.
okay. So there's just two question for this second session, but I I still give the participation chance to ask the question. You can use chat box or use raise hand, because in this second session you can we provide three questions for this session. Please, if a participant, do you have any question, please, you can use chat box or use raise hand feature to share your question.
There is a question about using this lecture, and I guess that would be up to the organizers. I don't mind it if this is being recorded, right? How to share it. That would be up to the organizers to answer.
Wait, if there's no question for from the participant, maybe can I ask you, Dr. Dr. Peter?
Yes.
So yeah, honestly, I just wondering that this is a new experience for me. This is new material for me. Uh, I just wondering, do we need to be a professional photographer to use this method? And does being more professional mean in photography make the result better?
I would say no. Um, I'm a social worker that uses photography. I'm not a photography that uses social work. And so although there are technical and camera handling skills that would be to your advantage, but I think anybody can do it. And if you keep doing it and you see the power of visualizing social welfare, that your photographs will improve. Um, uh, uh, when I let my wife take my camera and she takes a picture of me, a lot of times she would cut off my head, you know, or it's like tilted. But we can improve those skills, and so not that shouldn't. I hope that doesn't uh, be a barrier, and you see the power of visualizing, and then you just improve your camera handling or photo taking skills. Now, in photo
Okay.
voice, where you give the camera to the clients, some of them are more skilled and some of them are not. But it's really that how they see their environment that's important.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Sito, for your answer. Very loud and clear. So I think there's no participant who want to question. So now we move on to the next agenda. So maybe first I'm gonna say thank you to all participants for your thoughtful question from the first session of the question. Perhaps maybe there is a reflection from Dr. Sito. Do you have any reflection for the answer that we already do it in as first and second session? Do you have any reflection?
Well, I've been stimulated and challenged by the questions about ethics and about narrative. And these are good for me as I do other projects to improve and to take into account some of the uh, uh, warnings that or the questions that have been raised about respecting the clients and AI for sure. Um, and I hope all of you can somehow, you don't have to take the pictures, but when you see pictures, when you look at pictures that your family has taken, that you also start thinking about um, the authenticity of those images or what they mean to you. When you look at a birthday party and people take pictures and you look at it, what does that mean to you? One of the things I use for students is that I have my students introduce themselves with a 3-minute video, so they could do that on Instagram. So they talk into their phone and then they submit that as an assignment. And most young people are doing that anyway. So I use that as a teaching tool for them to share their narrative, their life story, and they get used to just producing something. So there are many ways we could use technology. Obviously, PowerPoint. Sometimes when you do a PowerPoint presentation, it's pictures. So how do you creatively have a PowerPoint that's with a lot of visuals. Sometimes you can insert a video into a PowerPoint presentation. So there's many other ways visualizing and photography images can be used in education as well as research and practice. For clients, sometimes you could say, well, could you bring in a picture when you were younger? Or could you bring in a family picture? And then the picture could become a way to elicit feelings or memories, and it becomes a icebreaker because sometimes maybe people can't talk just off the bat right away, and so the images can do a lot. So there again, it's not just the picture taking, but the power of just images and what they mean to all of us.
Thank you, Dr. Sito, for your reflection. Now, allow me to briefly summarize the key takeaways for this session. First, that photography is not only document, but also transform perspectives. Second, it helps social worker uncover hidden realities, connect cross-culture, and empower communities. And third, integrating photography into social work require both creativity and ethical responsibility. So now we move on to the next agenda as we come to the close of today's lecturers. On behalf of EPSPI, I would like to express our deepest gratitude to Dr. Peter Sito for sharing his experience and inspiration with us tonight. And we also extend appreciation to Dr. Puji Pujiono, MSW, our university partner, and all participants who join us this night. Our thanks also go to our ILS University partner, Muhammadiyah Jakarta University, the Islamic State University of Jakarta, Binawan University, University of Indonesia, Pajajaran University, Polytechnic of Social Welfare Bandung, and Pasundan University, as well of the Social Welfare and Social Work Student Association Forum. Please don't forget to claim your e-certificate and stay updated with EPSPI for the future international lecture series event. Thank you once again, your active participation. We look forward to seeing you at our next lecture. Have a wonderful evening and stay safe. Now I hand the program back to the host. Thank you.
Right. Wonderful. Thank you, Dr. Sito and Rajendra, for a great session, a great discussion we just had. Yeah. I'm sorry, everyone. Because I need to take over the host role since Sandy had an emergency situation. But yeah, I mean, let's hope that everything will get better with her. And all right, move on to the topic that today's session was really insightful and engaging. Yeah, I mean, despite the little number of the participants coming to the forum, we had a rich discussion. We had a rich questions, engaging session with Dr. Sito and the participants, and on behalf of the organizing team and the IPSPI, we really appreciate that, Dr. Sito. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise and your experiences your experiences from across culture, context, and showing how photography can deepen our understanding of social realities, while also advancing the profession, especially for the social worker. And also, thank you so much, Rajendra, for being skillfully moderator, guiding the discussion and the flow, and make sure all the participants' questions are answered. And yeah, thank you so much. All right, and now I think Dr. Sito, since our session will be end earlier from what we schedule, we now coming to the end of the session, and I would like to give final announcement for the participants that the presentation and the recording of the ILS session are available. For the recording is available on the YouTube channel of the IPSPI. All of the participants are welcome to visit the recording, while the presentation will be shared later to the website. So the IPSPI recently just launched the official website, and the ILS will be one of the part of the website, and we will upload it. We will upload and share all of the materials of the ILS to the website. So yeah, Dr. Peter, if you are agree, if we can share your presentation, we will upload it there also. And then, Dr. Peter, there are some participants who also requested your contact. Maybe they wanted to have a personal consultation maybe with you regarding on how they can sharpen their skills or their capability in showing the social realities into photography or into writing. Yeah, is that okay if we share it with them? All right, thank you so much.
Yes.
Okay, and then the next information is about the e-certificate. For all the participants, please fill the attendance form that we shared on the chat box so that we can have your data for the e-certificate. And then we would like also to announce our next ILS session for the October, which will take place on Wednesday, 29 October from 7 until 9 p.m. Jakarta time. And it will feature the speaker, Dr. Daniel McIlroy, the lecturer at the School of Social Science, Education and Social Work from Queen's University. And she will be representing on the important topic protecting clients' rights. And we look forward to seeing you there. Please stay tuned on the IPSPI social media and also IPSPI WhatsApp group for the updates for the next ILS session. Okay, and now we officially close today's event. Once again, thank you very much to Dr. Sito for the insights and also for your flexibility, for your generous availability to participate in the ILS. And hopefully this is not we hope that we can have a more detailed session regarding regarding how can we practice these photography skills into our work as social worker. Yeah, we will keep in touch with you for that. And then thank you also Rajendra for moderating this session. And also, of course, thank you to all the collaborator of the ILS program, for the Ministry of Social Affairs, for the collaborating universities, and also for all the participants both are who are joining in Zoom and also in YouTube. Thank you so much, and we look forward to meet you again in the next month session. And we hope that the conversation and the session we had today inspire your work and also strengthen your capability and our collective commitment to justice, to recognition, and solidarity within social work practice in Indonesia and also globally. And with that, I would like to close today's event. Thank you so much. Good night and have a great day to Dr. Sito, since this is early morning at your place. We hope that you had a great day. Thank you so much once again, everyone. Looking forward to meeting you soon. Please stay healthy and stay safe everywhere. Thank you. Yeah, thank you.